This is the Nichols story. More specifically, it is a Nichols family history album. It is presented in the memory of Arthur Buff and Beatrice Lulu Nichols. Arthur Buff Nichols and Beatrice Lulu Parlett were married in Findlay, Ohio on October 3, 1914, when Arthur was 25 years old and Beatrice 23. Their marriage of nearly 60 years ended with the death of Arthur in March of 1974 at age 85. Beatrice lived 6 more years until February 1980. She was then 88. Art and Bea, as they were known by everyone, raised 5 children: Robert, Maxine, Wayne, Janice, and Joanne. All the children married and raised families. This history album was assembled by their son Wayne in 1989 and 1990 as a memorial to them. The music used in the presentation is all from Arthur Buff's collection. Art's family. We begin our story with Art's side of the family. The first picture is that of Art's father, Frederick Charles Nichols, the patriarch of the clan. One record has the 2 given names reversed. Fred was born in January 1852 in the Thousand Island area of the St. Lawrence River between New York State and Canada. The family name was not Nichols, it was Senecal, spelled Senecal. It was always said that he was French-Canadian. When a young boy, perhaps 15 or so, he ran away from home and went to Watertown, New York, where he changed his surname from Senecal to Nichols. It is believed that he was part French and part Seneca Indian. This would explain both his family name and why he would change it, since there would have been racial discrimination against half-breeds, as Indian biracial people were then called. Fred was a fireman in Butler, Pennsylvania in 1884 when he married Art's mother. He would have been 32 and she 18 at the time. He died in Cleveland, Ohio in January 1928 at age 76 and is buried in Findlay's Maple Grove Cemetery. Sometime between 1885 and 1889, the family moved first from Butler, Pennsylvania to Bradford, Pennsylvania, and then from Bradford to Lima, Ohio, where Fred became employed by the Lima Locomotive Works, manufacturers of steam railroad locomotives. There he learned the trade of tool and die maker. Apparently, a job change later brought the family to Findlay, Ohio, where they established their home at 120 Edith Avenue. When the children were older, probably in their teens, the parents separated and Fred went to Cleveland, where he lived until his death. Art's mother, Luella Nancy Nichols, is on the right in this picture with one of her sisters, probably Emma. She had 2 other sisters, Anne and Jenny, and a brother, Frank. Her maiden name was McGee. She died in 1962 at age 96, surviving her husband some 34 years, and is buried at Maple Grove in Findlay with her husband. Art's mother, in her middle years, standing here in front of her oldest daughter's Gertrude's home on State Street in Marion, Ohio. Here she is in her later years at her little bungalow at 153 Monroe Avenue in Findlay, where she lived alone many years. The Fred Nichols family portrait with the parents in front. The children, left to right, are Arthur, Gertrude, then Luella. Gertrude, the oldest, was born in Bradford, Pennsylvania in July 1885. Arthur was second born nearly 4 years later in May of 1889. After Arthur came a third child, Luella, born October 1892. Both Arthur and Luella were born in Lima, Ohio. Luella had prominent Indian features, her nose and her high cheekbones. This is a family picture when they were all up in years. Next is the earliest picture we have of Arthur Buff Nichols, perhaps 3 years old. Then a year or two older. Here is Arthur with his sister Gertrude. Arthur was always called Art by everyone, even his mother. Gertrude was called Gert, and the younger sister was called Hun, possibly short for Honey to avoid confusion with the mother, whose name was also Llewellyn. Art again, this time as a little big boy. Art always wore a hat throughout life. Looks like it started at a very early age. Art with his high school class. Like many boys back then, he quit school to go to work, so never graduated. He is in the middle of the group, beside the tall girl. As a young man, Art achieved fame by establishing a world's record in marathon roller skating at a Cleveland, Ohio roller rink. The year was probably 1908, when he would have been 19. Apparently, he was living with his dad at the time, since the newspaper account referred to him as a local lad. This is the newspaper account of that particular record. New record established. Arthur Nichols wins long endurance roller skating contest at Imperial Rink. Lad skates 30 hours. Plucky young man far outclasses opponents before becoming fatigued. World's record easily broken. The long endurance roller skating contest, which was started at the Imperial Rink Thursday night at 7 o'clock, was ended Saturday morning at 1 o'clock when Arthur Nichols gave way to a temporary stroke of paralysis in his feet, after having skated 30 hours continuously. Mr. Nichols also was one of the winners in the recent endurance contest, which was held at the rink, having skated 26 hours and 45 minutes. With the winning of this contest, a new world's record was established. The broken one, having been 28 hours, had been held by Robert Breese, who entered this contest but withdrew after but 12 hours. The local lad now holds the championship of the world, having won it with seemingly little effort. Although he was not fatigued, he was forced to stop on account of his feet and ankles being temporarily paralyzed. This shows how a wonderful power of endurance on the part of Mr. Nichols, as besides the loss of sleep, he was subjected to the necessity of being continuously on his feet, and for his ability he is receiving a great amount of praise. We now turn to B's family. This is as far back as we can go in B's family. These are B's great-grandparents on her mother's side. They are David and Marie Morrison. He was English and she was Scotch-Irish. They immigrated from England to New Jersey in the early 1800s, where they lived for a while, and then moved to Ohio, where they settled on a 160-acre farm south of Wharton and raised 11 children. They are buried in Wharton. This is B's maternal grandmother, Rosetta Morrison Bowser, here holding her grandchild Verna, B's older sister. Rosetta, called Zettie by family and friends, was one of the 11 children of David and Marie. Rosetta's husband was Chastine Bowser. Nothing is known about him or his family. Rosetta had 3 children, first Hattie, B's mother, and then David, and then Iva. This is Alice Morrison Earp, one of Rosetta's sisters, and B's great aunt, one of the 11 children. This gal moved to Montana and owned a ranch near Bozeman. When leaving there to visit her mother in Ohio sometime in 1881, she was followed and murdered by an outlaw named Joe Douglas. He was hung for the crime. She is buried in Bozeman. Another of the 11 Morrison children, this one named Anne. It is believed that she was a schoolteacher who also went to Montana, possibly to be with her sister Alice. The center person in this picture is Hattie Bowser, Bee's mother. The other two girls are unknown. Hattie was born in July 1869. The date 1870 on her gravestone in Findlay is incorrect.